Was it ever possible for us? Was there ever a time, ever a moment?
No.
The cruelest thing a person can do is not hate you. It's love a memory of someone else while you're standing right in front of them, alive, asking to be seen. Everyone remembers Cersei Lannister as the woman who poisoned, schemed, and burned her way to the Iron Throne. The villain. The monster who never loved anything but power and her own children. But there is one scene, one quiet, show-only scene the books never gave us, that proves the queen everyone calls heartless once worshipped the man she's accused of murdering. And tonight, I'm going to show you exactly where her love died, down to the single word that killed it. Start with the question itself. In Season 1, she sits across from Robert and asks him whether there was ever a moment, ever a chance, when the two of them could have worked. People watch that scene and hear a cold political marriage looking for an exit. But you don't ask that question about a marriage you never wanted. You only ask it about a marriage you once hoped for.
Was it ever possible for us? Was there ever a time, ever a moment?
No.
The question is the proof. One word. No. He doesn't even soften it. And watch her face when it lands. She doesn't flinch like a woman who expected nothing. She absorbs it like a woman who's just had the last door quietly closed in front of her. The disappointment only exists because the hope was real. That's the whole thesis of this video. Cersei didn't start as the monster. She was made into one. And the show built a trail of evidence to prove it that most viewers walked straight past. Now look at that scene again. Really look at it. Because here's the part almost nobody clocks. This conversation doesn't exist in the books. Anywhere. George R.R. Martin never once puts Robert and Cersei alone in a room to be honest with each other. Not in 5 novels. Their marriage reaches us secondhand. Old wounds, bitter memories, recounted long after the fact. The two of them never sit across a table as two tired people and simply tell the truth. The show wrote that scene from nothing. Sit with what that means. The writers took the coldest marriage in the saga and handed it one private, unguarded moment. A moment where Cersei sets down every weapon she owns and just asks to be loved. They invented tenderness for a woman the books refused to let be tender. That's not an adaptation. That's a resurrection. And watch how she asks. Not as a queen, not as a Lannister. She asks the way you only ask when the answer can still wound you. You don't open yourself like that to a man you never wanted. You do it for a man you once believed in. The books hand you a war already lost. The show hands you the single second it could have been won. And then it spends the rest of Season 1 showing you, one wound at a time, exactly how that second died. The first wound is a single word, and Cersei lets it slip in front of the last man who should ever hear the truth. Which brings us to the scene this entire video is named for. Season 1, Episode 7. The Godswood of the Red Keep. Ned Stark, the most honorable man in Westeros, has just told Cersei that he knows the truth about her children. He thinks he's cornering a guilty woman. Instead, he accidentally unlocks the most honest confession she ever makes. He says she's always hated Robert, and here's where most people misremember this scene. They think she agrees. She doesn't. She detonates.
Hated him. I worshipped him.
Worshipped. Not liked. Not tolerated for the crown. Worshipped. Every girl in the Seven Kingdoms dreamed of Robert Baratheon, the warrior who toppled a dynasty, and Cersei got him. Hers by oath. She describes seeing him on their wedding day at the Sept of Baelor, lean and fierce and black-bearded, and calls it the happiest moment of her life. Hold that image. Lean and fierce. Because the Robert we meet in Season 1 is a bloated, drunk, joyless wreck who can't get off his own throne without help. The show is telling you something brutal. She didn't fall out of love with a monster. She watched the hero she worshipped rot into one. But it's the next line, buried right in the middle of the confession, that tells you the precise second it all died.
And that night he crawled on top of me stinking of wine and did what little he could do. And whispered in my ear, Lyanna.
There it is. Their wedding night. the most vulnerable moment of her young life, and the man she worshipped finishes by whispering the name of a dead woman into her ear. Lyanna. Not a slap, not a scream, a whisper, the smallest possible sound, and it did more damage than any blow Robert ever landed. Look at how she delivers that name. She spits it like it's still lodged in her throat 15 years later. Because it is. That whisper is the wound the entire War of the Five Kings grows out of. She told Ned the rest of it plainly. Your sister was a corpse, and I was a living girl, and he loved her more than me. A living woman, breathing, beautiful, ready to adore him, losing to a ghost. The love didn't fade. It was murdered on night 1 by a name. If that just rewired how you see Cersei's entire arc, if you're already thinking about rewatching that Godswood scene, that's exactly when people hit like. Not because I told them to, because they felt it. Hi, I'm Nick, you're watching Cynic Cults, and we're just getting started. Because here's what makes that worshipped line even sharper. It's a deliberate upgrade. In the book version of the Godswood scene, Cersei is far colder about it. She never uses the word worshipped. Her younger feelings for Robert are described as something much closer to mild willingness than burning devotion. A girl prepared to make a marriage work, not a girl consumed by it. The show took that lukewarm political readiness and cranked it to worship. They handed Cersei the most intense possible version of first love, specifically so they could destroy it in front of you in the same breath. Book Cersei lost an arrangement. Show Cersei lost a religion. That is a writer's room making a choice. They wanted the fall to hurt. Now, I've shown you the show's case for a woman who loved and lost. But I'd be lying to you if I stopped there, because the books fight back hard, and the war between the two versions is the whole point. Open A Dance with Dragons, and Cersei remembers the first year of the marriage. Robert hurts her one drunken night. The next morning, she confronts him. And the King of the Seven Kingdoms, the demon of the Trident, doesn't apologize like a man. He sulks like a child caught stealing cakes from the kitchen. It wasn't me, my lady, he mutters. It was the wine. I drink too much wine. And he reaches for more of it while he says so. So she picks up her drinking horn, heavy metal, and she smashes it into his face, hard enough to chip his tooth. And here's the detail that should stop you cold. Years later, she overhears Robert at a feast, bragging to some serving girl about how he chipped that tooth in a glorious tourney melee. A lie to cover the truth that his own wife marked his face. And Cersei thinks, coldly, well, our marriage was a melee, so he did not lie. That's not a victim's line, that's a soldier's line. The book version of this woman isn't a heartbroken girl. She's a combatant in a 15-year war who gave back every blow she could. The show gave you a broken heart. The book gives you a battlefield. And the terrifying thing is, they're both true, because broken hearts are exactly how battlefields get made. Then Robert dies, gored by a boar on a hunt, drunk, the way he lived. And the day the court goes into mourning, Cersei wears a gown. Sansa describes it in the books, and the detail is so loaded, it's practically a confession sewn in thread. Black silk, high-collared, and across the bodice, 100 dark red rubies cut in the shape of teardrops, as if the queen were weeping blood. The court sees a dramatic display of grief, but look closer at what those rubies actually are. Rhaegar Targaryen, the crown prince. When Robert killed him at the Trident, he caved in Rhaegar's chest with a warhammer, and the rubies set into the prince's black armor burst loose and scattered into the river. They named the crossing the Ruby Ford for it. Those red stones on black are Rhaegar's colors, the dead prince's blood made into jewelry. So on the day she's supposed to mourn her husband, Cersei drapes herself in the dead man her husband murdered. Black and red, Targaryen colors, worn to a Baratheon funeral. And now the whole tragedy snaps into focus. Because Robert spent his entire life in love with a ghost, Lyanna Stark, a girl he barely knew who may never have loved him back, dead for 15 years. And he chose her over every living woman who shared his bed. And Cersei? Cersei did the exact same thing. As a girl at Casterly Rock, she once watched a silver-haired prince play his harp, and she dreamed of being the one to mend his sadness. Rhaegar, her ghost, the man she was supposed to marry before the world rearranged itself. Two people, each chained to a corpse they idealized, each unable to love the living person in front of them because a dead one had already taken the seat. Robert whispered Lyanna into Cersei's ear on their wedding night. Cersei wore Rhaegar's blood to Robert's funeral. They weren't a husband and wife who failed each other. They were two haunted houses, sharing one bed. And once you understand that symmetry, the books deliver the final, horrifying answer to where the love went. Because it didn't just die, it turned into something monstrous. After Robert's death, there's one meat Cersei eats more than any other. Boar. The animal that killed him. She devours the thing that gored her husband, over and over, like she's eating the victory itself. For Cersei, in the books, triumph is something you literally swallow. When her enemies suffer, she says she can taste it. This is a woman whose love curdled so completely that it inverted. Affection became appetite. The girl who worshipped a king ended up consuming his memory like a meal. That's not a villain origin. That's a love story that rotted in the dark for 15 years until there was nothing left but hunger. The monster everyone fears was a girl who loved too hard, was rejected too cruelly, and survived by turning every soft thing inside her into a weapon. So go all the way back to that show-only scene in episode 5, the one the books never wrote. Two people, alone, finally honest, asking whether they ever had a chance. She asks because she remembers worship. He says no because he never stopped whispering another woman's name. And the realm itself, the wars, the betrayals, the bodies stacked from King's Landing to Winterfell, all of it grows out of that one quiet no, spoken by a man who couldn't love the living because he was loyal to the dead. That's the scene that proves Cersei loved Robert. Not a battle, not a betrayal. A question, asked across a table, by a woman who already knew the answer, and asked anyway. That's the saddest thing a person can do. Hope out loud when you already know. So here's what I want you to sit with, and tell me in the comments. If Robert had said yes, if in that scene he'd reached across the table instead of shutting the door, does Cersei still become the woman who burned the sept? Or did everything that came after, every death, every cruelty, trace back to a single word that didn't have to be no? Make your case. I'll be reading. This is the part where most channels beg you to subscribe. I'm not going to do that. But if this video made you see Cersei differently, not as a villain, not as a victim, but as something more honest than both, then you already think like we do here. We're building an empire of people who don't just remember scenes, they decode them. And if you're still here, you're already one of us. You know what to do. Here's the part that should keep you up tonight. If Cersei truly worshipped Robert, if there was one real thing between them before the whisper killed it, then the son she gave him is the most important child in the entire story. A black-haired boy. Robert's true-born heir. Everyone says that child died in his crib. I don't think he did. I think he grew up. I think he's swinging a hammer in a forge on the Street of Steel right now, with no idea he's the rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms. And I've already laid out every piece of evidence. The swap, the benefactor in the purple cloak, the lie about the fever, in the video on your screen. Cersei's love built an heir nobody was supposed to find. Go see who he really is. That video's already up. Watch it next. Until then, stay cult.